Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. My name is Talal, and welcome to Popcorn and Soda, the show where we discuss all things movies, pop culture, and so much more. As always, I want to thank each and every one of you for making me a small part of your day. All right. This is a movie that was on my most anticipated list of 2024. So, what is the movie we're speaking of today? Argylle, directed by one of my favorite directors, Mr. Matthew Vaughn, starring Henry Cavill, Bryce Dallas Howard, Samuel L. Jackson, Mr. Bryan Cranston, Sam Rockwell. This is an absolutely stacked cast. Now, as you guys have watched my older videos, I mentioned this is one of my most anticipated movies of the year because of how big of a fan I am of these creatives that are behind the screen and in front of the screen. Matthew Vaughn, love him. Kingsman, one of my favorite movies. X-Men First Class, love it. Henry Cavill, what else can I say? By far one of my favorite actors currently. And Bryan Cranston, he might actually be one of my favorite actors of all time. So going into this movie, I was so excited because I know when you have this kind of all-star cast and a maestro behind the film directing it, you know it's going to be a good movie. Yeah. Argylle, in the first month already, I will probably say this is going to crack my most disappointing films of the year. This movie was just not for me at all. And it hurts me to say that. It truly does because I was so excited for this film. Because it's a brand new IP, and like many other millions of movie fans worldwide, we all crave new original ideas from creatives like Matthew Vaughn and Henry Cavill and Bryce Dallas Howard, Sam Rockwell. This movie, I literally cannot explain what I watched because it did not know what it wanted to be. And when it did know what it wanted to be, it did not flow with the film. It did not flow with the story. It did not flow at all for me. And that's why I'm so let down by this movie, because the potential behind this movie was literally like, you have literal all-stars and Oscar winners in this film. And I never say a movie is bad because I believe that you have to be fair in your critique. Something that I like, you may not like, and something that you like, I may not. That's what I always say about all my reviews is art's in the eye of the beholder, right? But this movie, from the beginning to the end, I could say I maybe liked 3 scenes. And that just broke me because I was so looking forward to this movie. So let's start off with the things that I did like. Well, we'll begin with that and then we'll shift into the problems that I had with this film. Number 1, I liked Henry Cavill in this movie. I really did. He is on the posters. He is Agent Argylle. And I thought that Henry Cavill brought this suave and this charm that he always does in his films. And I really enjoyed the scenes that Henry Cavill was in. I thought it just made you want to watch more and more of him. So I enjoyed that. Number 2, the thing that I really liked about this movie is like a double-edged sword, because that's also what I didn't like about the movie. But the larger philosophy of this point is that I liked that it was like a big swing. It was literally a big, swing at a brand new IP, a brand new spy franchise. We're living in a world of Jason Bourne, Bond, all these things. And the fact that Matthew Vaughn went after it and decided to create a brand new IP, working with Apple, and like the budget for this film was apparently 200 mil, like poof. I appreciated that because I like those kind of stories that have a little bit of a mystery in it, and there's a twist, and there's multiple twists in this movie that I will say I was kind of like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But they weren't good twists. And but I have to give credit to Matthew Vaughn for going into the batter's box with a big swing, because I appreciate that in filmmakers, because it's very missing very much so missing in today's film because everyone is so caught up in the next IP that's already existing, whether it's comic books, an existing book, a cartoon, an anime. So I'll give Matthew Vaughn and the team over at Marv all the credit in the world for trying to create a brand new story that will entice fans. Yeah, that might be the only positives I have to say about this movie. Because I just think this is such a missed opportunity. It's such a big missed opportunity because, again, you have such a stacked cast. And that was my biggest problem with this movie is that you have amazing actors that I felt were very underutilized. Henry Cavill, John Cena, who I love, Ariana DeBose, like those three characters, even Dua Lipa, I really enjoyed her character for the 5 minutes that she was in the movie. They were so underutilized in this film. And it was just like, what's going on here? These are some of the best parts of the film, and they're probably in like less than 10 minutes of the film itself. So that, I just didn't like the story overall about the spy, this author, Ellie Conway, who's played by the great Bryce Dallas Howard. And the story revolves around her character who creates this fictional story of Agent Argylle, and she's just stumped in trying to create an ending for her latest book. She runs into Sam Rockwell, who happens to be an undercover spy. And I thought, like, the two of them, Sam Rockwell and Bryce Dallas Howard, they had good chemistry. They did. I bought it. But I just thought the story made no sense at certain points, and it was almost trying to, like, all right, well, here's a twist. Oh, there's another twist. Well, here's a twist you didn't see coming. And I think that just kind of didn't work for me because it was hard to get invested in these characters when every 30 minutes, 15 minutes, there's different intentions from different characters and different twists and turns. And like, I think the cast is so underutilized. And that goes back to that notion that you can have a great cast in a movie. Dare I say this, maybe the most stacked cast outside of like Dune 2 that's going to come out this year. And the results may not always work if the story isn't there. And that was my biggest problem with Argylle, is that the story just wasn't there. So that's number one. And it's not a knock against the actors. I know they all tried their very best and they all gave it their best based on the content that they were given. So I just think the cast was underutilized. My second biggest problem with Argylle is the story and direction of this film. Now, as I always say, I have to be fair, and when you are giving your criticism, be fair to the filmmakers because there is hundreds of people that go behind making these films. But it starts largely again with the producers and the director, and Matthew Vaughn in this case. This movie to me was Kingsman 2 minus the few good things I liked about that movie. I felt this movie was all the things I didn't like about Kingsman 2 into one. And some of the scenes are so cheesy and corny. Like there's this big dance number near the end. There is this oil skating scene, which I'm just watching like, what is this? And it's one of those things where you have amazing action, amazing, set pieces, big explosions, but you're kind of just sitting in your seat and you're like, okay, sorry, I'm registering with you. And there's a handful of movies like this every year that come out that have these big spectacles, but you don't invest in the characters or the story. So it doesn't really mean anything when you're seeing these things blow up and these crazy things happen. So I love Matthew Vaughn. I feel X-Men First Class is one of my top 20 favorite movies of all time. He's so talented. Again, Kingsman, the first Kingsman's amazing. Yeah, Matthew Vaughn, I think, just didn't have his best day at the office when it came to Argylle, because I think he took a concept, which is cool, about someone who's writing a story and things that she's writing about are starting to come true. And there's that one crazy twist in the movie where I didn't mind it, but the fact that I just didn't like how we got to that point. It just didn't make me care about the movie at all. And it got a little too ridiculous with the twists and everything. There's literally like 5 twists in the movie, and none of them really connected with me because I just didn't care about the story or the characters. So that was definitely something I didn't enjoy at all. And number 3 is, I just think that a movie that had such a big budget and such an amazing cast, I just think it was such a big missed opportunity here, because Matthew Vaughn had the potential of launching a brand new spy franchise, which is pretty much like dead on arrival at this point. Because, you know, with the opening day weekend, the box office, the reviews, it's not looking good for Argylle 2, which, let's be real, is probably not going to happen at this point. But I just think it was such a missed opportunity, and I almost don't want to talk about this film because if this, I don't understand how so many amazing creatives can come to what Argylle was. But again, like I said, art's in the eye of the beholder. Something that I like, you may not, and vice versa. So if you are wanting to watch Argylle, and if you are interested in this movie the same way that I was, don't let the reviews and don't let, you know, even this review steer you clear. If you want to watch it, go watch it. But, you know, it's going to be, from my perspective, it was just a very difficult watch where I was just so let down that I got bored in the movie, where I'm just like, okay, like, what is this? And it just hurt because Bryan Cranston, he was like the one character in the movie like that I wanted to like so much, because I love Bryan Cranston. He is like one of my absolute favorite actors ever. And even that, I feel like Bryan did such a great job with his character, but there was no stakes or gravitas behind his character and the story that he was involved in. So, you guys know me. I don't rank movies on a star rating or a number rating. It's all about one of 3 things. Is this a theater movie? Is this a watch at home movie? Or is this a movie you kind of watch when it's on streaming and on a rainy day you're just flipping through the channels? Now, I personally would recommend this as a watch at home / rainy day film. It's right in that little sweet spot there. I wouldn't recommend this as a theater movie because how expensive it is to go to a movie nowadays, and just in general, I thought that the theater didn't enhance my viewing of this film at all. Of course, the bigger the sound, the bigger the screen, the better the movie feels. I'm always a big, you know, advocate of watching films in a theater, because I think that's how all movies are meant to be watched. But I think in a movie like Argylle, it's a long movie. It's like 2.5 hours almost. It's hard to get through it in one sitting, especially like I struggled with it in the theater because I was so disappointed by it. Where I think that watching it at home, you can watch it on your own pace if you really want to watch it, absolutely. And, you know, you take a little break here and there. And if you're not really very keen on even watching it, it could be one of those movies, as I mentioned, when you're kind of flipping through the channels, you land on it. You may not understand much of it because there's so many twists that get you to a certain point. But overall, I was just very, very let down by Argylle. Now, I think when a movie like Argylle doesn't do well, I think it sucks because it isn't really good for other original IPs, because studios look at, all right, we invested X amount of dollars in this and the audience feedback just wasn't there. And the box office return wasn't there. So it's sad, but I feel like this is going to impact the ability for directors to make a big budget movies that are original IPs, because the return for the studios aren't going to be there. And, you know, like I said, Matthew Vaughn's one of my favorite creatives. And this is not by any chance going to deter my excitement for the next Kingsman or whatever else Matthew Vaughn does. I just think that this movie wasn't the best story. And I think just, you know, we all have those days in the office where it just wasn't our best effort. And I'm sure he gave his best effort. Absolutely. But it just wasn't a movie that I think was very good. So there you have it, guys. That was my review on Argylle. a movie that I think that was very, very underwhelming and very disappointing. A movie that was number 5 on my list of my most anticipated movies of the year is probably going to end up being in my top 3 most disappointing films of the year. But hey, art's in the eye of the beholder. Something I like, you may not. Something you like, I may not. That's perfectly okay. That is the beauty of cinema, my friends. And if you're interested in checking out Argylle, please go out, watch the film, and then I invite you to come right back and comment below and do share your thoughts on the film. As always, I want to thank each and every one of you for making me a small part of your day. And that was my review of Matthew Vaughn's latest film, Argylle.